We are going to start our session with the roll call. Please state if you are present or present and voting when I say your country's names. So welcome delegates, we are going to start our session with the roll call. Please state if you are present or present and voting when I say your country's names. France.
Present and voting.
China.
Present and voting.
Nigeria.
Present and voting.
The Netherlands.
Present and voting.
Japan.
Present and voting.
United States of America.
Present and voting.
Andorra.
Present and voting.
Italy.
Present and voting.
Mexico.
Present and voting.
Germany.
Present and voting.
Brazil.
Present and voting.
Canada.
Present and voting.
Sweden.
Present and voting.
Russia.
Present and voting.
And United Kingdom.
Present and voting.
Okay, delegates. Are there any motion on floor?
Yes, the delegation of Germany sets the motions to open the speakers list.
Delegate, you can take the floor, please. Delegates, are you for this motion? Raise your hands if you are in favor, please.
Well, there are 15 votes in favor. The motion passes.
Is there any other motion on the floor?
The delegation of Mexico sets a motion to start with the opening speeches.
Delegates, please vote this motion. Raise your hands.
There are 15 votes in favor. The motion passes.
Is there any other motion on the floor? Delegates?
The delegation of Brazil sets a motion to start with the opening speech.
Delegates, are you for this motion? Raise your hands if you are in favor.
There are 15 votes in favor. The motion passes.
Is there any other motion on the floor?
The delegation of Germany sets the motion to start the speakers list.
Delegates, please vote this motion.
There are 15 votes in favor. The motion passes.
Okay, we will be moving on with the opening speeches. Please raise your hands for the speakers list.
The delegation of United States of America, please introduce your opening speech.
Honorable Chair, delegates, and members of the Assembly. My name is Chelsea Barker, and with my partner, Daniela Amador, I represent the United States. The United States believes that women's rights are fundamental human rights, and the growth and prosperity of all countries depends on the inclusion and equal treatment of women in all issues. As Hillary Clinton quotes, "Women's rights are human rights, and human rights are women's rights." It is a global emergency to address that women face discrimination on the basis of sex and gender. We'd like to share with you our preoccupation regarding this issue because it is time that things change, and we want to make it clear, women, regardless of race, ethnicity, or income, should be treated equally. For our part, the United States will work in achieving this goal by putting forward resolutions that combat violence against women. We want to create a treaty that addresses gender wage gap by sanctioning companies that do not pay the same wage to women and men. And finally, we also want to propose the creation of an organization that promotes education for all girls around the world, which will focus on the problems that each country has, and based on that, it will create adaptable solutions. It is our responsibility to take action and unite efforts to change today's reality, and we are willing to collaborate with the countries that are here today. We have to support civic education, leadership development, political and economic participation for women, and the creation of laws that protect them from any type of violence. Women have the right to have access to education, jobs, healthcare, and mainly the chance to enjoy basic human rights. Their lives are important and they are part of the future and progress of our nations. Thank you.
Thanks, delegate. The delegation of China, please introduce your opening speech.
Thank you. Honorable Chair, fellow delegates, distinguished guests. More than half a century ago, Mao Zedong said, "Times have changed. Today, men and women are equal. Whatever men comrades can accomplish, women comrades can too." The People's Republic of China firmly believes that this goal is achievable. This is why, 25 years ago, the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action were implemented and have since then had a far-reaching impact on the protection of women's rights and the advancement and empowerment of women. However, the inequality still exists between men and women in terms of rights, opportunities, and access to resources. In light of this, the People's Republic of China calls all of the delegations reunited today for action to ensure women keep being empowered and their rights respected. Women truly hold up half the sky, and the respect of women's rights is the respect of mankind's rights. Let us work tirelessly for a community with a shared future for humankind. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. The delegation of Germany, please introduce your opening speech.
Hi, honorable chairs, distinguished delegates, and members of the Assembly. Today, my partner and I are representing the German government, which works both at bilateral level and within the framework of the European Union, the United Nations, and other international organizations to enhance women's rights and foster gender equality. Mainly in Germany, the violation of women's rights is almost nil. We think that there is still the opportunity to combat gender discrimination in the labor field, and providing equal opportunities is still a great job that can be achieved through the cooperation of our country and in the same way with other countries to help us mutually. A large number of international agreements and instruments in the field of women's rights sets clear goals and obligations for the international community, such as gender equality and elimination of discrimination. The problem lies in the consistent implementation of some specific integration projects. Germany and its EU partners have agreed on means and ways to achieve these goals to support women and girls in the EU guidelines on violence against women and girls and combating all forms of discrimination against them. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. The delegation of United Kingdom, please introduce your opening speech.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and delegates of the House. My name is Regina Leon and I'm representing the United Kingdom along with Paula Angeles. The United Kingdom recognizes the necessity of changing the way women's rights have been developed during the past few years. As in other country situations, most specifically during this pandemic. As in other country situations, our commitment with the resolution of this issue is entirely focused on making women's rights accomplished in order to build a society full of equality and women participation. Some samples of our progress are RASO 2025, made for the improvement of justice procedure during rape offenses, and several internet resources which help women by providing them important information about our helping sources. We are planning to progress by using social media, which we consider is an important, modern, and fast way to make sure women are being listened to and informed. Every day in the UK, women face inequality at home, at work, in politics, and in public life. That makes the UK a worse place to live. We are convinced that this improvement needs to happen now, and we are here to find a resolution to this issue by working together with all of the countries and sharing our helping sources. Thank you.
The delegation of Andorra, please introduce your opening speech.
Thank you. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, and members of the General Assembly, my name is Cecilia Hernandez and I'm the delegate of Andorra. Our official language is Catalan, but our second one is equality. You can see it in our Constitution, first article, fraction 2, that in a nutshell it specifies the respect and promotion of freedom, equality, justice, and defense of the human rights. As well, the Constitution recognizes the right to live and fully protects it in its different phases, making abortion not an option in our country. So Andorra provides contraceptive methods to its entire population, from teenagers to adult prescription, like emergency pills, since 2018. Women in Andorra live protected from any violence or injustice. Our country signed the Istanbul Convention in 2011. With this agreement, we eradicate domestic violence, the work violence, forced marriage, forced abortion, and forced sterilization, as well as other types of injustice for women. To improve gender equality, we created other services to protect women and life. We offer delegates to follow our steps to empower women and respect life no matter what. We have to trigger women, as Rosa Luxemburgo said. Those who do not move do not notice their chains. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. The delegation of Russia, please introduce your opening speech.
Thank you. Honorable Chair, delegates, and members in the Assembly. Good afternoon. I'm Elizabeth Hernandez, and with my partner, Paulina Bertrand, we represent Russia. Russia come in front of you we like interesting in defending the rights of women, our rights. We want to talk about discrimination and violence to each of them because today we're going to raise our voices. To raise awareness about the value of girls and women, to respect and enforce rights equally, to make this world an ideal place in which we feel safe, without fear of going out or restraining them, or protecting them, and they feel they're free and respected. Russia works in poverty, ignorance, injustice, racism, and deprivation of their basic rights. Are the main problem that women and men fight. Women can become independent and fight for ourselves, because rights are something that should not have gender and have the same opportunities that men have. And all the people can unite too, so that there are equality in rights. Just as we know that not all men discriminate against women. In the debate, we focus to being able to give women and the rights they deserve it, so that there are equality in the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. The delegation of Japan, please introduce your opening speech.
Thank you. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, and members of the Assembly. My partner, Marvin Daniel Palma, and I, Ana Cristina Rodriguez, are the delegates of Japan. Life is not what you only make it. Life is the input of everyone who touched your life and never experienced that enter it. We are all part of one another. Judy Kotsuyama. The state of Japan would like to address one of the most perplexing issues that the world faces today, women's rights. Every day in our country, women are harassed and victims of this inequality. That's why we would like to contribute to the progress of this situation by this forum. As part of the effort for creating a society where all women shine, which is one of our top priorities, we are working by doing the Japan's revitalization strategy and the third basic plan for gender equality, to prepare by the fact that violence will not be tolerated. We don't see women as a different gender, but rather as human beings so capable of achieving great things and contributing to the growth of our country. As we mentioned before, Japan's government is continuing working to give women more opportunities and empowerment. That's why we give orientation and guidance to all the other governments to create strategies in order to give women more education and preparation, specifically calling for Brazil, Italy, and United Kingdom. We know that we haven't yet completely eradicated this problem, but we think that together we can only just give them opportunities, but also empowerment by creating a gender equality environment. The delegates of Japan are inclined to contribute to solve the issues mentioned before through this forum. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. The delegation of Nigeria, please introduce your opening speech.
Honorable chairs, delegates, and members of the Assembly, I am Sara Valeria Romero Tapia, and I am the delegate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Did you know that 1 in 3 Nigerian women suffer domestic violence? Sadly, more than 50% of cases of violence against women went unreported because these women have nowhere to go. As well, they believe that domestic violence cannot be a reason to report their husband to the police. Rather, it should be a matter to be settled within the family. In Nigeria, violence against women is almost accepted as a fact of life in some cultures that perceive women as the property of their husbands. The social context of violence in Nigeria is based largely on its patriarchal society. Domestic violence is widespread and shows no signs of lessening in Nigeria. Nigeria believes that domestic violence is a human rights issue that greatly hinders women and girls from contributing to national development. Violence against women is completely unacceptable. We condemn in its entirety. Our country is planning to create a specific law that sentences to a life imprisonment for any man who commits any type of violence against women. 2, the creation of centers for the protection of women, places where they can turn if they are suffering domestic violence and have nowhere to go. And 3, the implementation of educational programs for girls and boys, where they can learn about their rights and their importance, as well as to respect those of others. However, in order to achieve our goal, we are seeking help from other countries to have a strong impact in our society. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. The delegation of Canada, please introduce your opening speech.
Good afternoon, Chair and delegates. The principal problem in Canada begins in the childhood, because the index of compliance with children's rights is 8.7 of 10. That means not all the rights are being fulfilled only in the childhood. When they grow and get a work, the women are less paid even if the work is the same. No matter that in the society a woman working is normal, but in the house could be a different way. Because every 590 per 100,000 calls to the police is about domestic violence. The principal goal is that men and women have the same opportunities and rights to make life more fair without distinctions, being all united. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. The delegation of, the delegation of Mexico, please introduce your opening speech.
Honorable Chair, delegates, and prominent guests. My name is Lemoralius Jesus, and with my partner Roxana Regina, we are going to present our opening speech. As we all know, Mexico is a beautiful country. It has a great diversity and inclusion, but not all is good for Mexico. Women in Mexico are afraid of all the femicides, harassment, and rapes against women. It is dangerous, and many women are afraid of what happened to their lives. This is an international problem, but the issue in Mexico is of a great concern. The investigation of different topics against women's rights have been improving. We are trying to improve our security and make things as right as possible. We think that our country can be better. We want women to feel safer in every situation, so we want to make a longer sentence for every crime committed against women. We are putting panic buttons around the city. Let women that in that case they want to, and they feel safer, they can have a white gun. This is a temporary solution, of course. Improve the security in the country and putting more requisites for being a police officer, so as firing all the policemen and women that don't follow the law. I leave the floor. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. The delegation of Italy, please introduce your opening speech.
Good afternoon, Chair, delegates, member of the Assembly. I'm Matías Pejel Rodriguez, and my partner is Elias Eduardo Ramirez. We will represent Italy. The position of women has been considered less valuable than men and shouldn't exist, so it's necessary to make a change. Italy have a position complicated about this issue because of the religion, the government. However, Italy's opinion on women's rights is positive. This is why to defend and promotion of women's rights is most important now, especially implement refugees, migrants, and displaced women. They plan on doing this by enhancing women's access to justice and sexually and preventing gender-based violence. The country supports initiatives to eliminate harmful practice, especially female genital mutilation, as well as child and forced marriage. Over the next 2 years, new resources of up to 50 million euros are planned to be allocated to promote gender equality and ensure the full enjoyment of women's rights by women and girls. Italy pledges to continue its strong support to UN Women and UNFPA by maintaining high levels of the nation contribution through resources and programs. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Delegate. The delegation of Sweden, please introduce your opening speech.
Thanks. Good morning, honorable chairs, distinguished delegates, and members of the Assembly. My name is Daniela Rioja, and I'm the delegate of Sweden. Today, our delegation is here to discuss one of the most aggravating issues around the world. In Sweden, women contribute to the 60% of the population that completes their university studies. Also, Sweden's historic reforms and the Commit government has led it to become one of the most gender equality countries in the world. However, Sweden still struggles to close the wage gap between males and females. This is destined to one day this obstacle is overcome. Because of the centuries of reform, the advancement of women's rights in Sweden can be seen even at the highest levels of government. As of 2019, women made up 46% of the Swedish parliament and 30% of the cabinet. Thanks.
Thanks, Delegate. The delegation of Brazil, please introduce your opening speech.
Good afternoon, all chair, delegates, and member of the Assembly. I'm Alondra Tirado, and I'm representing the República Federativa de Brasil. Maria de Peña once says, that is why the role of the press in the dissemination of in the Maria de Peña law is so important, as well as the work of universities, schools, and all the institutional freedoms. As we know that only through education can we have, in the long run, a less macho society and more egalitarian. In all societies, there are the difference between what is expected, allowed, and valued in women and what is expected, allowed, and valued in men. These differences have a specific impact on women and men in the phases of life, and man determined it, for example, differences in health, education, work, family, life, and everyone's general well-being. Therefore, production of gender statistics involves split up of individual data by sex and other characteristics in order to reveal these different inequalities and investigate specific issues affecting the sex more than the other. In the case of Brazil, these are other characteristics assume as important role in the historical series of social indicators. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. The delegation of the Netherlands, please introduce your opening speech.
Sure. Good evening, delegates, members of the Assembly, and Chair. My partner, Bárbara Vanessa Cordero Reyes, and I, Yarila Talleres and Llanos, are the representatives of the Netherlands. As representatives of Netherlands, we comment before you our intentions and problems in order to achieve alliances that favor all the women that make up our country. Nowadays, as in many countries, women in the Netherlands suffer from the problems of physical and psychological violence. Addressing the problems expressed by the women of the territory, we seek alliances with different countries that have alliances with different countries that have proposals that benefit both abuse and help improve the quality of life of women. Also, see for the rights and life of the transgender women. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. The delegation of Friends, please introduce your opening speech. The delegation of Friends.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, delegates, and audience. I'm Raquel Pedraza, and I'm representing France with my partner Diana Aguilar. Today we are here in this conference of the United Nations to talk about women's rights. Women's rights are defined as the liberties and opportunities all women should have, especially the opportunity to be treated the same as men. The problems of France related to gender inequality range from feminicide, sexual exploitation to physical and sexual violence. France's International Strategy for Gender Equality 2018 to 2022 considers a budget that will be exclusively dedicated to combat feminicides and forms of violence against women in France. We propose to carry out gender education campaigns for schools of all levels. We train teachers in gender issues so they can teach and guide their students on this relevant topic. Additionally, we will organize schools for parents and support lines in case there are women suffering extreme times of violence, in which case they will receive free psychological and physical help. Also, we will protect the victims and their involved, and we will take measures to deal with abusers. We hope that the decisions taken at this conference, the rights of women are considered, remembering that our goal is to improve and achieve a better world, and thank you for your attention.
Thanks. We finished the opening speech.
Thank you, delegates. We'll be sharing the resolution draft this committee has worked on. Is it correct? All of you can see it?
Yes. Yes.
Delegate of United States of America, as the main sponsor, you may speak in favor of the resolution.
Honorable Chair, thank you for your recognition. The United States, along with Andorra, France, Italy, Japan, and the United Kingdom as sponsors, and Brazil, Canada, Germany, and Mexico as signatories countries, created the following resolution based on our concern about the few opportunities that women have and the obstacles they face. Together, we believe that the resolution will help decrease the inequality gap, bringing benefits to women across the world.
Cooperative. Encourage an alliance. Together we can cooperate to reduce wage gap by creating a resolution that sanctions companies that discriminate women in their workplace due to religion, gender, special medical needs, ethnicity, immigrant status. If companies do not respect the above conditions, the government of the country will be forced to authorize the indefinite closure of the company until the company's policies are in the solidarity with women and men. Companies will be obligated to have an equal pay. 2. Urges to reduce the number of girls that do not have access to school with the design and implementation of a global program, Educate for Equality, that will work with governments, NGOs, and the UN to reduce the alarming number of 130 million of girls that do not have access to education by researching the reasons that reproduce this problematic and based on the create solutions that can be adapted to each country. It will help mainly developing countries such as Nigeria, Mexico, and Brazil. 3. Condemns any country that wants to take advantage of the delicate situation that women live in order to benefit themselves. 4. Emphasize the commitment to promote women engagement in STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics by creating programs such as competitions and mentorships for girls in schools. 5. Request the creation of funds to work on unlimited access to networks as well in disparities like education, healthcare, politics, and rights. 6. Calls for international monetary help to increase programs in support of women. For 5 years, this will help specifically efficient and longer range operations. At any time, any of the state's parties may make a request for international monetary help, guiding the protocol. Demands the country to submit a detailed report on the achievement and scope of the financial project every year at. The program created by the country must reach at least 90% of the goal of the program in the 5 years of financing. 7. Emphasize in creating an organization for indigenous women that will help them get opportunities, education, and jobs. This organization will be financed with the monetary support that states countries are willing to give. 8. Calls attention to acts on promotion of women's participation and advance on empowerment in the workplace. This we want to impose an obligation on large companies that public entities for them to create their own action plans with numerical targets in order to reduce wage gap notably. 9. Invites governments to economically support women and their small business so that they can continue increasing them. 10. Believes that social media is an easy and important thing in our lives. This is why we will see it to promote respect of women's rights and equal opportunities for them with online campaigns that collaborate with social media platforms and the supervision of the UN. 11. Invites for the creation of a budget for 3 years, 2021 till 2023, that will be established to finance the activities of feminist organizations around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegation of United States of America. Is there any point of information and operative closet? Okay, China, please, you may take the floor.
Thank you. It is now that many American companies exploit their workers in less fortunate countries. What are the measures to be taken on this issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Who can answer that question?
The delegation of the United States.
Okay, please, you may take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The U.S. government is aware of the labor violation rights that women face mainly in developing countries. That is why our government is a key partner to the International Labor Organization. Together, we have made continuous progress toward improving living and working conditions and adherence to international labor standards in countries around the world. We have a lot of progress to do in this topic, but we are committed to improve. That is why recently the Biden administration expressed its desire to crack down on human rights abuses in China, where 1.5 million Muslims, including women, are detained in forced labor camps that supply brands around the world. Last summer, we also created a bill that was passed into law that requires U.S. companies to provide quarterly reports of operations in Shanghai region, where a lot of forced labor occurs. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Is there any other point of information? Sweden, you may take the floor.
Thanks. The delegation of Sweden has 2 points of inquiry. You say that the companies that don't respect conditions, they will be forced to close the company indefinitely. But what will happen if the countries where these companies are located support them?
Thank you, Delegate. Who is answering?
United Kingdom.
Please, United Kingdom, you may take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. What we want to get with our proposal is that the companies of each country have the totally respect about women. If you ask for the important companies, they should have to do it too. And more than any other, because if we make this law where every company has to respect women's rights, if they don't do it, the government will close them. And if the most important companies don't do it, as you say, they will have considerable economic losses, and that will obligate them to respect this law immediately to evade those losses and also their commercial image. So it doesn't matter the company. A lot of them will have to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the answer satisfied? Sweden?
Yes, I have another point of inquiry. Also, you mentioned that you will implement a program that talks about education for equality, but we know that are very conservative countries where the culture doesn't allow women to study. So how will you help those women?
United Kingdom, can you answer that question?
Yes. As we mentioned in our proposal, we want to reduce the number of girls that don't have access to schools with the design and implementation of a global program, as you mentioned. But something important is that we want to get by researching the reasons that produce this problematic based on the situation of each country. And with that, create solutions for each of them. So in general terms, we could modify or adjust these clause for each country situations. And school would not only keep girls on the path of academic success, but play a significant role in changing gender stereotypes, not least on the subject they take and in shaping the values and attitudes of the young people. So I left the floor.
Thank you, Delegate. Okay, thank you. Delegate of Japan, you may take the floor.
Yes, thank you. To answer that question, we want to make adaptable changes in each country because we know that they have their own traditions, their own thoughts on women's rights. But that we want to do is to give counseling on studies and mentoring on careers because we know that this is all connected. If you don't give women preparation, they don't have a chance to get a good job. And in order to this, gender wage gap is going to increase a lot. That's why we also want to increase awareness and recognition to make campaigns so we can explain to these countries what are the consequences not giving a good education to women, and also the benefits, not just to develop the country, but also to give women the chance to have good rights. Thank you. I leave the floor.
Thank you, Delegate. Is there any other point of information?
The chair has received a statement from Sweden. Sweden, please, you can take the floor.
Thanks. The delegation of Sweden suggests to make an agreement to solve the gender wage problem in one which the following points are met. One, that the women have the opportunity to leave work early due to a family problem. Two, that women be allowed to carry out certain projects that only men have the privilege to do. And three, that the women be capable of being part of the management team of a company. Recommends that participation of women in government roles increases. Thanks.
Thanks, delegates of Sweden. There are needed speakers, please. We request two speakers, please. One in favor and one in against, please. Delegate of China, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. The delegation of China still feels like the measures that are to be taken are still very ambiguous, and it has not yet been cleared how social media will be exactly used into this issue. Finally, the delegations of People's Republic of China does not feel like the implementation of these measures will generate a real change in the daily lives of women.
The chair needs two speakers, one in favor and one against, please. China, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. First, The measures to be taken are still very ambiguous. Second, it has not been yet cleared how social media will be exactly used. And finally, the delegation of People's Republic of China still feels like the implementation of these measures will not generate alone a real change in women's daily life. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate of China. Japan, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. The delegation of Japan would like to answer. First of all, as we know, social media is very different when it comes to our countries, but what we would like to do according to our clause number 3 is to basically just have like common rules that may help all of us in order to achieve what we are here. Also, we know that women have the opportunity to leave work early due to a family problem, and we know that through social media, it's very common that people. The delegation of Japan, as we know, we are pretty aware that not all of us, our countries, have the same policies when it comes to social media. We have different causes and different rules to follow. That's why through this forum, we would like to work on that and also to give women a little bit more of participation in this kind of things and to make them more available for all of us. And China, I would like to give us a little bit more of your information, please, in order to be more aware of what you're asking and to give you like a proper answer, please.
China, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. In response to what the delegation of Japan said, the point that China was trying to make is to ask whether or not social media will be used into the resolution that all these countries propose, because it was mentioned before, but we cannot see how exactly it will be used in the amendment. This is the issue we were having.
Thank you, Delegate of China. Delegate of UK, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. Well, China, most of our allies have more than 72% of participation in social media. So that's like a viable way to expand the information. And we have some points, specific points in social media that we would like to achieve. For example, hashtag activism to help bring women's issues to the forefront of political agents. Second, tackling violence against women through social media tools as women share their experiences there, and public accountability towards gender equality. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate, it's any other motion on floor? Well, it isn't. Let's go to the attempt, please. Delegates, is there any motion on floor? Delegate of USA, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to make it clear that we support the idea of the United Kingdom to implement social media in protecting women's rights. But we would like to warn the countries that are here today about social networks in China, because they have WeChat that replaces Facebook, Messenger, and WhatsApp, which are social medias used in the Western world. The problem is that this social network is considered the least secure messaging app in the world, according to Western intelligence agency. And we would like to make it clear that if we are going to implement social media usage, we want the UN to support this and to be aware of the problems that could happen. So we want some security, because the United States wouldn't agree to pass WeChat, the social network, in our country. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate of USA. Delegates, is there any motion on floor? China, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. Just to make clear that the delegation of the People's Republic of China has never mentioned that it will try to other countries to take the same social media platforms that are being used in our country. It was never mentioned. We do not intend for other countries to use the same platforms. And yes, that was the main point for us. So we ask not to make such statements that can harm the image of our country. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. Delegates, is there any motion on floor? I think
Okay.
no. Delegates, let's vote the attendance, please. Delegates, let's vote to the attempt, please. Countries in favor, please raise your hand.
There are 17 votes in favor.
Delegates, let's go to vote to the attempt, please. Delegates in favor, please raise your hand.
There are 13 votes in favor.
Thank you, delegates. You can lower the hand, please. Delegates in against, raise your hand, please.
There are 2 countries in against.
Well, so the motion
No.
passes. Delegates, raise your hand if you are in favor, please.
There are 17 votes in favor.
Thanks, delegates. Lower your hands, please. Delegates in against, raise your hands, please.
There are 2 votes against.
Clearly the amendment passes. The chair has received a second amendment from Italy. Italy, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. The Italian government suggests recalling that exists a council calling 1325 on the UN Security Council about women, peace and security, was adopted on October 31 in 2000, advocating the adoption of the gender perspective that includes the special needs of women and girls. The resolution called on the countries that allowed greater representation of women at all levels. This plan implement concrete action that mainstream gender equality in all prevention as well as respect for women's rights. Part of the council has countries that are here, and those are China, USA, France, Russia, and UK. According to the UN documents, these countries signed a permanent agreement. So we invite you to take into account the advice that addresses that issue we are dealing with at this time.
Thanks, Delegate of Italy. Delegate, is there any motion on floor? Delegate of Mexico, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. The resolution is very much good, but I think it would be better if a plan were created to support women and to prevent violence in home. And it would also include more requirements for future police officers because there are many who take advantage of women and they're not punished. That's kind of the things I would join into the resolution and in the part of Italy is taken out right now. Thank you, I leave the floor.
Thanks, Mexico. Delegate of Nigeria, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you for your recognition, Chair. The Federal Republic of Nigeria agrees with Italy's amendment because we believe that the 1325 Council could be a very useful tool in fulfilling the objectives of this conference, since the main objective of both this conference and the Council 1325 is to support women, eradicate violence against women, and guarantee their rights. We believe that if we use the resources we have, we can have a greater impact on the countries that have signed this resolution, and we would also have the support of the rest of the countries that are part of the 1325 Council. Thank you. I leave the floor.
Thanks, Delegate of Nigeria. Delegate, is there any motion on floor? Italy, you can take the floor, please.
I'd like to respond to Mexico. You say that we don't really protect women and such on domestic violence, but you also don't do that. You are saying something which doesn't correlate. You're saying something that you also don't put on action. Thanks.
Thanks, Delegate of Italy. Mexico, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. Actually, I would like to correct that. I didn't say that. What I said is that in the resolution, it would be great to include that kind of protection to women. And we're actually taking part of a resolution in our own country to improve our security for women. In that case, what we are actually doing is that we're creating a project that there is about women, approximately 200 women in each state, in each delegation, so that they can go home by home to take care of women and see if everything is okay. And That's what we're trying to do, and we're starting doing it right now. So I would like to thank you if you could just don't say that kind of things that would democrate my country. Thank you. I leave the floor.
Thanks, Mexico. Delegates, is there any motion on floor? If isn't, um, we request two speakers, please. One in favor and one in against, please. Okay. Delegates, let's go to the resolution, please. Countries in favor, raise your hands, please.
There are 14 votes in favor.
Thanks, delegates. Lower your hand, please. Countries in against, raise your hands, please. Countries in favor, please raise your hand.
There are 12 votes in favor.
Thanks, delegate. Lower your hand, please. Countries against, please raise your hand.
There is one vote against.
Thanks, delegate. Lower your hand, please. Clearly, the amendment passed. After this long productive discussion, let's evaluate the resolution. Are there any speeches in favor? Sweden, you can take the floor, please.
Thanks. The Swedish delegation is in favor of the resolutions. We believe that this will be lead to the visualization of women's rights in society. We believe that we are in more of open society and on the way to women having more value. Thanks.
Thanks, delegate. Japan, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. As we see in the resolution, we all want to help women, mainly on education and in the sector labor. But as we mentioned, we don't see women as a different gender, but rather as human beings so capable of achieving what they proposed. And as we said, we as governments, we all have the duty to help them, to facilitate them, and to give them more opportunities. Thank you.
Thanks, delegate of Japan. Delegates of Canada, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. I think that the resolution could be a great change in the world. Make the life more fair, even if you are a man or you are a woman. I think that it's so good.
Thanks, delegate of Canada. Delegates of Netherlands, you can take the floor, please. After this long productive discussion, let's evaluate the resolution. Are there any speeches in favor of this resolution? Andorra, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. Alarmed by the recent increase of violation of women's rights mentioned in this debate, and recognizing the importance of women's rights, Andorra supports and defends the inclusion and suzerainty, believing that the salary should be equal as well as the decision making between women and men. Taking into consideration the respect of women's rights like religion, equality, the political and labor field, reproductive health, sexuality, and others, and guided by the female empowerment that has transcended year by year welcoming the modernization, Andorra supports this resolution for the benefit of all women in the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate of Andorra. Sweden,
Thanks. The Swedish delegation is in favor of the resolutions. We believe that this will lead to the visibilization of women's rights in society. We believe that we are in a more open society and on the way to women having more value. Thanks.
Thanks, Delegate of Sweden. Delegate of Japan, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. As we see in the resolution, we all want to help women, first on the education and second on the labor sector. But we as different governments has the duty to facilitate it to them. And as we mentioned, we don't see women as a different gender, but rather as human beings so capable of achieving their goals. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. Delegate of USA, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you. The delegation of the United States believes that this resolution shows the desire of the countries to contribute to the improvement of women's rights. We know that if women participate, there are improvements in our society, our economy grows, and we create a better world. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate of USA. Delegate of Netherlands, you can take the floor, please.
Thanks. The resolution will improve the lives of women and they will have an opportunity to have more chances to participate in technology. We expect that girls will be interested in all the fields of the STEM. Thanks.
Thanks, Delegate. Delegates, are there any motion on floor? Okay. So let's vote this resolution as well countries in favor, please. Delegates, raise your hand, please. Delegates, let's vote this resolution as a whole countries in favor. Delegates, raise your hand, please.
There are 12 votes in favor.
Clearly, the motion passes. Delegates, are there any motions on floor?
With a clear majority of votes, this resolution passed. The chair is waiting for a specific motion. Are there any other motions? With a clear majority of votes, this resolution passes. The chair is waiting for a specific motions. Are there any other motions on floor? Delegation of France, you may take the floor.
The delegation of France sets a motion to adjourn the meeting.
With a clear majority of votes, this resolution passes. The chair is waiting for specific motions. Are there any other motions on floor? Delegation of France, you may take the floor.
The delegation of France sets a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Delegates, please vote. If you are in favor, raise your hand.
There are 20 votes in favor.
Thank you, delegates. Please lower your hands. Clearly, the motion passes. The chair adjourns the meeting.